An epic uprising ended up in an epic tragedy, a bloody tragedy. An epic conspiracy betrayed by someone who was pretending to be their ally. A betrayal to the freedom of our people. Wait lang, if you would like to watch this video in Tagalog, check out the links up here or down below for the Tagalog version of this video. Don't forget to like, share this video, comment, and subscribe. Now back to our topic. Mabuhay or in Kapampangan luwid kayo. This is part 2 of my video on the Revolt of the Lakans. So if you haven't watched it yet, make sure to watch part 1 of this epic conspiracy. So how did the Spanish learn about this epic conspiracy? How did they find out about the plots of the Dátûs and Lakans of Luzon? If you remember from part 1, the Sultanate of Brunei was part of this epic conspiracy. Not many people remember this, but the royal families of Luzon, Brunei, and Sulu were all related to one another. And while Dátû Salámat was traveling through Brunei to inform and encourage his grand uncle, the Sultan, to join the uprising, he stopped by the islands of Palawan and Calamianes to also encourage them to join the revolt. Unfortunately, they were betrayed by someone who was just pretending to be their ally. Antonio Surabao from the islands of Calamianes told the Spaniards about the long-planned conspiracy to revolt. The Spaniards had no idea that the Dátûs and Lakans of Luzon had been planning a revolt for the past 15 months. For 15 months, they had no idea that there was a conspiracy to overthrow them, that it was brewing right under their noses. And so, when Antonio Surabao told his Spanish master, Pedro Sarmiento, the Spaniards quickly moved to capture and imprison all those who were involved. And many of them were sentenced to their gruesome and cruel death, while all of their properties, all of their wealth, were claimed by the Spaniards. The leaders of the revolt, Agustin de Legazpi and Martin Pangan, were hanged, beheaded, and their bodies were quartered, meaning their bodies were cut into pieces. And their severed heads, along with their internal organs, were placed inside iron cages for all the world to see. They were paraded and displayed as a warning of the cruel and miserable death for anyone who dared rise up against Spain. On the other hand, Dionisio Capulong of Candaba, Pedro Balingit of Pandacan, Pitong Gatang of Tondo, Felipe Salonga of Polo, and other Dátûs who were involved were all exiled across the Pacific Ocean to Acapulco in what is now Mexico. The Spaniards had hoped that the severed heads of the Lakans would serve as a warning and to prevent any further uprisings in the Philippines. But did our ancestors really stop? Was it really the last revolt, the last uprising before the revolution of 1896? Many think that this conspiracy was just a small and isolated event, an epic fail that ended up to the death, the cruel and miserable death of its leaders. But if you think about it, this conspiracy is actually one of the most underrated, significant chapters of our history. It is important for us to debunk the myth that this was just an isolated incident, because this uprising was actually connected to earlier anti-colonial revolts in Pampanga and other parts of Luzon in the late 1500s. In fact, in the year 1585 to 1586, barely a year before this conspiracy, another revolt took place in Candaba. This revolt in Candaba, Pampanga was led by Don Juan de Manila and Don Nicolas Managuete. Don Juan de Manila belonged to the royal family of Manila from the bloodlines of Raja Matandá and Raja Sulaiman. He belonged to the same clan and was related to the leaders that conspired from 1587 to 1588. So this Tondo Conspiracy, this uprising, was not really that surprising. It is an important reminder for us that despite what the colonizers tell us, our ancestors did not easily surrender. They were not easily defeated. They did not just give up and accepted colonialism. And just because this conspiracy failed, just because it ended up in a tragedy, it is important to know that this was not the last time our ancestors revolted and fought back against the Spaniards. They kept fighting the colonizers. In fact, many may not know, but within the 300 years of Spanish rule over the Philippines, there was actually over 200 recorded uprisings against the cruelties of colonialism. Over 200 revolts to drive out the Spaniards even before Jose Rizal and Andres Bonifacio were even born. We must also not forget that the Spaniards never really succeeded in conquering and colonizing the mountains of the Cordillera. They never really defeated the sultanates and the indigenous peoples of the islands of Mindanao and Sulu. In contradiction to what the colonizers and the miseducation of our people told us about our ancestors, that in reality, our ancestors were not weak. They were not barbaric or uncivilized. That in fact, they had the ability to unite and act against the invaders. And their legacy of bravery and heroism continues to flow in our veins. It lives on in our blood and in the souls of our people, in the spirit of our motherland. Because 300 years later, in Tondo, in the same land where the Dátûs and Lakans of Luzon plotted their conspiracy, carefully planned an uprising against the Spaniards, the Katipunan was born, founded by a new generation of heroes, led by Andres Bonifacio, a proud son of Tondo. It was a new movement, a revolution for the new generation, to fight for the freedom of our motherland, for the freedom of our people. In fact, apart from the 1898 revolution led by the Katipunan, the Tondo Conspiracy or the Revolt of the Lakans was actually the largest attempt to overthrow the Spaniards from our islands. It was geographically the most widespread movement against colonialism in the Philippines before the Katipunan. So if we think about it, the Katipuneros were also continuing and improving upon what the Lakans had started 300 years ago, to rise up against the injustices and the oppression under tyrannical and imperialist rule. Sadly, not everyone is aware of this revolt. As I've always mentioned in my videos, there's still so many things that we need to learn and unlearn about our past, about the histories of our ancestors, about our own people. So check out my other videos to learn more about the history of the Philippines and our people, from both at home in the motherland and abroad across the seas. About the ancient kingdoms, the pre-colonial warriors, the modern-day labor movements, and yes, even food. Because there is deep history even in our delicious food. And that is it for me today. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, don't forget to like, share this video, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to help me make more videos like this, show your support and please be my patron or get a copy of my book, Dakal pong Salamat. See you next time, or in Tagalog kita-kits and in Kapampangan, Mikitix.